Hey there, fifth grade. We're going to continue our work with fractions, and we're going to continue today looking at and using a different model to show fraction equivalence or show like units, changing things to like units because we know they have to be the same denominator in order to add or subtract them. So you can see again we're using related denominators, so fourths and eighths, halves and eighths. And so they're going to have us using this model today, an area model. So you can see already they have drawn the 3/4 and represented this fraction as 3/4. But we can see that we have fourths and we have eighths. And so we're going to change our fourths into eighths so that we have like units. So if I look down here, I could just think about this. Like yesterday, we were talking about how you could multiply by 2 to get eighths. And so we can see that 3 times 2 would be 6, and 4 times 2 would be 8. So how would I show that on this model? Well, essentially, if I'm multiplying by 2, I'm cutting these into 2 pieces. And so now we can see that this creates 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so our new fraction is 6 out of 8 pieces. We have to include those pieces as part of our whole. So 3/4 means the same as 6/8. So now that we have equivalent, we can actually add them together. So instead of writing 3/4 here, we're going to write its equivalent, which is 6/8. Plus our 1/8 is going to equal 7/8. Let's look at this next one. We have 1/2 minus 3/8. So I hope you're looking and you're thinking, oh yeah, I could change halves to eighths. What would you multiply by to change halves to eighths? Well, if you're saying 4, you are correct. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. So we could say to ourselves that 1/2 is the same as 4/8. One thing about fractions that equal half, the top will always be half of the bottom number. So how do I show that? If I'm multiplying by 4/4, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to essentially cut these this way. So we can see I cut them into like with 4 pieces, multiplying times 4. So what does that give us? That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces now. And our denominator, which is the whole, is 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. So 1/2 is the same as 4/8. So going up here, right, I'm not going to use halves anymore. I'm going to use the equivalent with eighths. So I have 4/8, and I minus 3/8, and that is going to give me 1/8. Okay, so down here on this bottom one, they're actually going to get a little tricky on us. We've been using multiplication. They're going to throw a little bit of division our way. So instead of looking at the 2/3 and turning it into ninths, which we could do, we could multiply by 3 and change this into ninths. That is one option. But they want us to consider taking our 6/9 and changing it into thirds. So let's go ahead and show a picture of what our ninths would look like. So drawing my rectangle. Showing my ninths, having shaded in 6/9, 4, 5, 6/9, and then I'm going to go ahead and label it. So this is showing 6/9. Okay. Now what they want me to think about doing is could I take the 6/9? Could I use division to change it to thirds? So if you were thinking about that, what could I do to my 6/9 to make it into thirds? What could I divide it by? And hopefully you're saying thirds. So if I divide by 3/3, I will get 2 on top, and my denominator will be thirds. So what does that mean? Because over here, this doesn't show that picture. So now instead of multiplication kind of cuts those pieces apart, I think of almost like division as gluing pieces together. So look at, if I'm dividing by 3, I'm going to glue these 3 pieces together. I'm going to glue these 3 pieces together, and then I have one last big piece. Okay, so we can see that 6/9 is the equivalent or the same as 2/3. Do you see that? 1/3, 2/3, so 2/3. Okay, so going up here, we can show, now we have 2/3 plus, not 6/9, but 2/3, and that equals 4/3. Okay. All right, looking at our next one, I have 1/4 minus 1/12. So again, I can go down here. I can change my fourths to 12ths. Going to make my fourths 1, 2, 3, so counting my 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to shade in to show my fraction of 1/4. And I'm going to label it. That is 1/4. And then I'm going to ask myself, well, if I have 1/4 and I need to change it to 12ths, what could I multiply by to give me 12ths? What would I multiply by? So if you're saying 3, you're correct. 3. Okay, so on top it would be 3/12ths. And 3, and on the bottom it would be 12. Okay, so how do I show that on here? Well, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to break this into 3 parts, equal parts, and I'm going to label this because now I'm showing that 1/4 is the fraction equivalent of 3/12ths. And we can see 1, 2, 3 pieces out of 12 pieces, so 3/12ths. So now I can do my actual subtraction. I can go up here and I can say 3/12ths minus 1/12 equals 2/12ths.